Hey, this is Anthony, and I help startups and side hustlers make their first 100,000 by building a data-driven business that's scalable, sustainable, repeatable, and franchisable. A bulletproof system that's made up of writing a book, a YouTube channel, and getting paid to speak at events. So if you'd like to know more about what we do, make sure you click the link below and join one of our free monthly business mastery workshops.
And here we are for our January Business Mastery Workshop. As I said, my name is Anthony Lindsay, and I've been doing business and finance for over 30 years, so I know a thing or two. And I have a really special guest this week. It's a man with three first names, Mark Simon Elliott. So, Mark, if you could just introduce yourself.
Yeah, Mark Sean Elliott, but it's
Oh,
close
sure.
enough.
That's what I meant,
That's
Sean.
okay, no problem, no problem. Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Sean Elliott from S4G Limited. I'll go into what that means later, but I'll be chatting a bit more about why I found out that I was a square peg in a round hole, and all will become clear later.
I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for being here, Mark. We're going to have a great session today. This session is for anybody who's looking to start a business. I really like to work with startups. So as I said, I've been doing this for 30 years. However, I find that my sweet spot, the place where I can add the most value is people that are negative 6 months to 12 months in business. As I was saying to Mark before we started the podcast, I find that nowadays everybody's selling a course. Like everybody has a 6-week course for this or a 3-day course for that. My issue with that is not the content of the courses, because the courses are often really, really good, but it's just the understanding that no one single thing will be the silver bullet in your business. So my wife is a graphic designer, and sometimes I cringe when she's talking to potential clients where they're talking about branding and she's putting together amazing branding packages. But then the question is, now what? What happens now you have your amazing branding where you've spent 2 or 3 thousand pounds? So business mastery is about telling you the things that you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. So I have a book. It's called Business Mastery for Startups and Side Hustlers. And we go through the key pillars of any type of business. And my name, as I said, is Anthony Lindsay. We have the QR code on the screen. You can download the book. It is a physical book, but you can download the ebook for free just for being a part of this course. Now, have you ever heard it said where they say, whatever you think, that's what the reality is? Or if you think you're going to fail, then you're going to fail. If you think you're going to succeed, then you will succeed. So, one of the key things about starting and running a successful business is mindsets. So, throughout the course, we talk about mindsets. We talk about the importance of having the correct mindsets when running a business. Part of my tagline is that I help people build a data driven business. And this is really important because it's so easy to listen to friends and family or be good at something and then get caught up in the hype of being emotional about starting or running a business. But what happens when that emotion starts to die down? So it's about having a data driven business. It's about making sure that you have KPIs or key performance indicators in place. You have tangible things in place that you can go back to, you can iterate, you can look at the data and say, is this working? So you can have a growth mindset. So you can have a mindset where you're saying, all right, this is what I plan on doing. Is it working? Is it working based on data, not based on my emotion? So we do talk a lot about mindsets because, as they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We're at the beginning of a new year, and quite a lot of people, I would imagine, Mark, have New Year's resolutions. Do you have any New Year's resolutions that you'd like to share with people?
Oh, I probably have a few I don't want to share, but yeah, I always have the resolution of doing better than last year. Simple as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So people will be starting this new year with resolutions, and we want to make sure that you have the right mindsets. I find it quite interesting in that at the beginning of the year, especially on LinkedIn, you start to see a lot of new faces. And then by March, they disappear because they've given up already. So I like to talk about the correct steps to follow when you're starting a business, because quite often I find that people are doing the right things, but in the wrong order. So it's just like if I was to ask Mark or anybody else, give me the PIN for your bank account. They'd be like, no way. I don't know you. I don't trust you. However, if I was to convince them, maybe if it's a 4-digit PIN, maybe they'd give me the 4 digits, but in the wrong order. And mathematically, the likelihood of me trying to being able to figure it out is highly unlikely. And this is what happens when people are starting and running businesses. Quite often they're doing the right things, but in the wrong order, and therefore they're not able to unlock the money or the goods or the services or the success that they're actually trying to go after. So when you're starting a business, what you want to do is do it in the right order. And I always recommend getting a business phone number first. Now, we're in 2025 now, so it's not like it was 15, 20 years ago. You can actually just get a new SIM and put it in a dual SIM phone. So you can get a phone that you can put 2 SIMs in it. You can have your personal SIM in there, and you can have your business SIM. This is important because it will allow you to separate your personal life from your business life. It will make sure that when someone's calling through on the business line, you don't answer it, hey, you answer it in a professional way. And by having that business phone, it can project a greater sense of professionalism. The next thing you want to do is have a business address. Now, you don't need to go out and rent an office. You don't even need to go out and rent a serviced office. There are a lot of service providers that provide what's called a virtual mailbox. Astor Business Centers actually operated virtual mailbox centers in Houston for quite a long time, so I know a lot about them. But the benefit of that is if you're building a website, if you're printing any materials that you are going to put your address on there, you're not putting your home address. Because the last thing you want to do is have anyone with an internet connection being able to find out where you live, or someone that has a drone or a drone service flying drones over your house. But I'll let Mark talk about that a little bit later. So you now have your business phone number, you have your address, and you should also get a website. Now, I know a lot of people will be saying, how old are you? Websites are no longer needed. You can just do it all through social media. And that is partially true. But it's similar to the fact that when you go out to a networking event or when you meet someone and they say they own a business, even younger people will often say, well, can I have a business card? And quite often people don't even look at the information on there, but there's an expectation that you will have a business card. And it's the same thing with having a website. It adds and it projects more professionalism. And from a technical side, there'll be things that you may want to do as far as setting up a CRM, which is hugely important, that you'll need a website. And then it will also allow you to have a domain-based email address. So instead of having just abc@gmail.com, you can have abc@astorbusinesscenters.com. So it depending on what country you are in the US, the business formation process is a little bit different, but you want to avoid DBAs or doing business as, because it's essentially you just running your business in a different name. If anything goes wrong, then you as an individual can be sued. So you want to set up the right business formation. If you're in the UK, you'd set your business up and you would register it with Companies House. And then you're at the stage of opening a business account, because we're all here to make money. And you want to make it easy for clients to pay you, but also you don't want to invoice them and put, oh yeah, make it payable to John Smith, especially if you're looking to get bigger clients or corporate clients or work with the government or any type of government agencies. So you want to set up your business account. Now, I've gone through this in this order for a very specific reason. You want to set those other things up that when you're setting up your business account, you're using your business phone number and your business address, so that when someone goes on Companies House, again, to maybe research your company or find out when you were registered, they're not also finding your home address. Now, we have about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to be hearing from Mark, who will be talking through his personal journey and sharing some really great hints and tips, because I think it's so important that as business owners that we support each other and that we network with people that are a few steps ahead of us. Quite often we fall into this trap where we're watching YouTube videos from, Tony Robinson and Dave Ramsey, who are amazing people, but they've been millionaires and multimillionaires for decades, probably as long as some of the people listening have been alive. So their reality is very different from ours. So it's so much better to be able to talk to someone that's a few levels or a few steps ahead of you, that can relate to your journey, and also someone that you could actually reach out to and get information from. So I'm looking forward to Mark's session. But as we wrap up this part of the podcast, it's understanding that before you can sell, you must understand your business. You need a business plan. It's shocking to me how many people I speak to that are in business and running probably quite successful businesses, but don't have a documented business plan. And one of the dangers with this is it prevents your business from being scalable, sustainable, repeatable, and franchisable. And you want to make sure that you have a business that's all 4 of those things. By not having a business plan and by not having documented processes, it can prevent you from being franchisable. And I don't necessarily mean that you're going to franchise in the formal sense, but what about selling your business? What about licensing your business? If you don't have documented processes, then an accountant cannot come in and value your business, and it would be very hard for you to duplicate what you're doing or have someone buy your process, because it's all in your head. So you want to avoid that. So I use a platform called LivePlan. LivePlan is a great platform for building a business plan because it breaks each step down into a smaller part, because it can be overwhelming putting a business plan together. But the great news is, once you've done it once, you can do it again. So this goes back to being repeatable. And those are the 4 pillars that I think are vital in starting and running a business, making sure that it is scalable. So if you go viral tomorrow, are you able to sustain and maintain the business that is generated from the thing that you want to happen, which is going viral, actually happening? Now, you may have heard about the Pareto principle. It's essentially saying that you're going to get 80% of your sales from 20% of your activities. But if you don't know what those 20% are, then you can be in trouble. So I want to make sure that anyone that is starting a business or running a business or needs resources or help, that they have access to good information and they're not being charged for information that really should be shared freely. This is why I've written Business Mastery for Startups and Side Hustlers. I'll share the link again at the end of the podcast. But now I know why everybody is here. Everybody's really here to hear Mark talk about his business and share some hints and tips. So Mark, I'm handing over to you, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to say and learning more, not only about you, but also about your business. So over to you.
Thanks, Anthony, and that's a very kind and great intro as well. So yeah, welcome everybody. Some really interesting stuff there from Anthony that I wholeheartedly endorse. I've been running a business for 10 years now, and it's the second business I've been running in 10 years. So there's been a restart up, which I'll come to in a minute. I'm going to kind of talk about square peg and round hole. I'll take you through the journey and pitfalls over 10 years in a very quick way, quite high level. But as Anthony said, this is about networking, sharing. Feel free after this to contact me. I'm available on LinkedIn. So it's literally Mark Sean Elliott, MarkSean Elliott. And you'll find me up there, and please tap me up and have a chat. So let's go through a journey. Well, I'll take you through my journey anyway. And the square peg and round hole will come very clear. So yeah, there it is, the square peg and the round hole, literally. So I'm the founder of a company called Sparks for Growth Limited. Interestingly enough, when Anthony was talking about entities there, that's the limited company name. That's in the UK, so that's what it's registered under on Companies House here in the UK. We don't actually trade under that name anymore, and that will become clear in a minute why. There's been a shift over the time. But yeah, I'm going to cover the pitted journey over 10 years, about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And then if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll pick those up at the end. So I'll try and answer what I can. And if I can't, I'll go away, find the answer, come back to you directly at some point. So yeah, I previously worked in corporations. I'm a little bit over 30, just a little bit. And I worked in corporations. That was the route I was taught through school. As you went to college, you basically then go and get yourself a nice white shirt, and you get some shiny shoes, and you go to the office, and that's how you get on in the world, and you climb a slippery slope. And I did that for 25 years. And throughout it, I never felt quite comfortable. There was always something that I didn't fit. And this is where the square peg and round hole feeling comes. Now, as an entrepreneur yourself, or someone thinking about side hustling or starting out, this might be a feeling you have in you that, you're going to work, it doesn't feel right somehow. And you maybe that there's something you feel there's more burning inside you to do. And that's probably your entrepreneurial spark somewhere, a creative side of you that you need to get out. Whether that's doing it in your spare time, or whether that's a full-time new vocation. So what let me get going and release myself was that I got made redundant in 2015, and I kind of was ready then to say, right, let's go for it. Let's just go. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and work for myself. Let's go and do it. So off I went. So wow, suddenly there you are. You've left a big corporation. You've left your day job. You're already fired up to go, and the world's been waiting for Mark Elliott to turn up and arrive, and everyone's going to want what I've got. Okie dokie. Well, that's what it looks like. That is me 10 years after starting a business, winning my first award. Now, that's not because my business skills are terrible or because I'm rubbish. Well, that's because it's just taken that right moment. Now, I've put success there with a question mark for a good reason. Is that the sign of success? Well, it's a part of success, isn't it? And I've turned over probably in the 10 years about £1 million UK, generated from myself and doing my own brain and working on stuff. But is that the be all and end all? And I think there's a danger here, where I started telling people in the first couple of years that I was an entrepreneur. And I had a very good coach at the time who told me, no, Mark, you're an entrepreneur until your money's run out from your redundancy and when you're hungry. And then you earn your first pound because you have to actually eat. He said, this is the moment you become an entrepreneur. So I thank him for that kind of advice way back at the beginning, and to take my wind my neck in a bit, really, about what I was. I was someone starting out on a journey. And you might be wondering what your journey looks like. Well, the way I started this presentation is with that slide there. And the reason I've started is it's what I would call a bridge. I've just shown you what success looks like last year, but I didn't show you the journey right back to the beginning. And I think this is where it gets kind of interesting, because you have to decide what work-life balance you want. You have to decide what you want out of your business. And you do have to have a vision of where you'd like it to be. Now, you'll hear in a minute why I wouldn't say stick entirely to that, but do keep hold of a vision. You've got to have something in mind to drive towards. Otherwise, a bit like having a journey going on holiday. It's like saying, I'm going on holiday, but just sticking a pin in the map and hoping you might land somewhere you like, because you might not land somewhere you like. So always have that. How you get to that end destination, though, is a completely different thing. One major pitfall I'll start here with, though, is beware, and Anthony alluded to this a little bit, of the sort of zero to hero mentality that you keep seeing on socials. And, again, the likes of Tony Robbins, incredibly successful, no one can knock him. But, there's this kind of zero to hero, join our program tomorrow morning and you'll become a zillionaire next week. And it ain't going to work like that. It takes hard graft and people like Anthony guiding you through these first steps to actually get you to those places. And then it continues to be hard graft ongoing until you hit a sweet spot. And you will at some point, and that could be today, could be tomorrow, could be 2 years' time. So I think the motivator has got to be more than just cash or shiny awards, as nice as they are. I'm going to come back to my slides a second.
Can I just say there's something hitting your mic?
Is there?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Let's try not to hit my mic. I don't know what it is. I will try and move. I've got some notes here, so maybe it's that. How's that sound? Is that better?
Yeah, that is better.
Okay, it's probably my paper just bubbling like that. Okay, so a list of my mugshot there with my colleagues. Day one, ground zero is not easy. It's not. It's a new beginning. It's exciting. But as Anthony said, that shine of excitement can wear off quite quickly in some people when they realize actually what it's going to be about is graft. But don't lose heart in that. I'm going to give you some reality bites, though, and I've literally used this to show your bubble being burst. Oh, what a great way to start a presentation to motivate people. Hey, Anthony, I've just burst everyone's bubble. I bet they're world shopping me. But no, that's not it. Here's some stark facts, though. Roughly 1 in 5 startups fail in year one. As Anthony says, some of that's in the first 3 months because you don't realize it is a journey. It's not a zero to hero moment. And even unicorn businesses, these great, silicon tech ones you hear about, this one person out of 100,000 people who've chased a dream, don't always make it through, and some of those go bust as well. So remember to keep your goals realistic and also steady, because otherwise you'll burn yourself, and that's for sure. Many ideas I find that people sit around and pontificate and think, oh my God, I'm going to do this thing. Don't always have the research or rigor into them to make sure that it hasn't been done, that the market isn't saturated, that basically that it's not replicable. Really, really dig deep when you're looking at your idea. Really do your heavy research quite early on and make sure that you are offering something different to the market that answers a need that isn't being addressed yet. Because this is the thing that actually consumers will buy from. If you just try and replicate someone else's success, then in the nicest way, you're probably dead in the water. So I'm not being depressing, but I'm afraid reality bites for some dreamers, sometimes quite early. So don't be a dreamer, be a doer, be a thinker, and be a researcher before you start. And then you stand a strong chance to be able to run a business. And once you've got that rough plan, working with Anthony here, for the first year, definitely, and then work with those bones, keep moving it forward and iterating. Don't try and do huge steps. So anyway, I'm going to stop bringing you all down. that's the bad stuff out of the way. But as I said, life, business is a journey. Well, both, because we are business owners. We are people who have to run that business, live a life, and everything else to go with it. So it's critically important. Let me just take you through that a little bit. So this slide will make no sense to most people watching, but let me take you through a little bit. I thought when starting a business, it was all about, I'd turn up, I had this one shiny idea, and I would use just one bit of experience from business and commerce, and that would be it, and drive it forward. What I've learned over the years is actually what's kept me going, and what's actually been the thing that's motivated me and kept my head up when times are tough, is actually pulling from your own experiences. So from left to right here, there's a bunch of stuff. Up on the top left, that's my old band that I used to be in. So I used to run gigs and I used to promote them and do all that myself. Next one's business courses. Then I started running a small marketing agency as a side hustle once. I was a surfer, I was a snowboarder, both of which take huge tenacity to learn, to be able to keep going out there and keep going at it until you become great at it. The one on the right is more me studying in my spare time. I didn't go to college in the traditional sense or university. I actually did my diplomas later in life when I found a little bit more of what I wanted. And here's the funny one. In the last 5 years, my PlayStation skills, which were amazing through my teen years, has suddenly become the most useful tool I never thought I'd ever use. And that's because I changed direction 5 years ago, which I will show you in a minute. And I'll explain why as well. So all those things you've got can be pulled through, and they're all great things. So here we have my journey. Now, my journey isn't your journey, and your journey may look real different to this. But I started up with very limited capital back in 2015 when I got made redundant, as I said. I sort of ticked along and kind of learned and iterated and fell over a few times, and all the things that people will do. You will fall over, get back up again, keep going. There's a great song about that somewhere, I think by Chumbawamba. Anyway, and then I did this thing called niching down, which some people really recommend. We had a marketing company, we were quite broad. We niched it down. We found a sweet spot, and then all hell broke loose. The combination of Brexit and COVID really undermined the confidence of the sector we were targeting, and COVID shut them because we were targeting hospitality. So 2020, that day, our prime minister in the country went, right, hospitality shutting, that's it. My business died after 5 years. And that was probably one of the most painful moments in my life, if not at the time. But it's not all over. So because I had a business, I had some money left in there, and I did a huge right turn. I actually got bought a drone. I then stood in a field almost sulking because my business was finished, and thought, but hang on a minute, what can I do with this? So taking my experience from a corporate background, taking my experience for them from 5 years running a marketing company, I then reiterated a new business plan and actually used those backgrounds and skills to then say, right, let's go again. And by 2020 August, so March was shut down in the UK. 2020 August, I'd gone up to do a flight school. I'd gone and done my examinations, and I was now a qualified drone operator, able to do it under fully insured detail. So that's what was being alluded to by Anthony with the flying the drones over the house. I don't fly mine over my house because it really upset my neighbours. Actually, no, my neighbours are really good. They do let me do some testing here sometimes. But anyway, what I found is that painful moment, but with the experience of having now a few years of running a business behind me, allow me to start much more quickly than the first time round. So when I say when you fall, that's a fall. That's like a building business gone to zero and then start again. So that's about as painful as you should ever face. But don't be scared to say the idea is done, dusted, or over, because you can learn from what you've done already and move forwards. And I think that's a critical level point, really. I can't hear you at the moment, Anthony.
If I could pick up on that, because there's a couple of things in what you're saying. And
please do, yeah.
I'm riveted because it's the drones thing. I need to ask you some questions about that.
Yeah, sure.
I've said for a while that for some people, COVID was the very best thing that could have happened. It was a painful time. And, I feel for anyone that, lost a business or, they were put in a circumstance that was insurmountable for them. But yes. I will say what I found was prior to that, there were a lot of businesses that were operating, as I said, without formation, without structure, without a plan. But because people had the disposable income, they would just spend that money, right? So I use the example of birthday cakes and my wife and my daughter because my wife loves cake, right? And we had a daughter around that time. And, each year what we would do is we would buy like these custom cakes, because we know some people that are amazing bakers. And we buy these custom cakes, right? But what happened is after COVID, when we didn't have that disposable income, we're now saying, all right, we'll just get a cake from Tesco's. Now, what that meant is those people that were providing those cakes previously, the people that weren't marketing, didn't have a marketing strategy, didn't have something that they could look at and say, well, what now? How can I iterate? How can I pivot? Those are the people that suffered the most. But the people that had a plan, that had data, that could look at numbers, they could pivot into something else, similar to like what you did. So
Yeah.
I know that what you said is it was potentially quite a depressing period, but you had all the tools and the resources to be able to pivot into this new thing that you're doing.
And I think, yeah, I mean, in many ways, like a lot of people, it was quite exciting because it forced me to think differently. It forced me to think of something new. And I think that's when you're under pressure sometimes like that, that's when the ideas really squeeze out. This is when
Yeah,
the real ideas come, is
yeah,
when you get pincered in. It forces you to think,
yeah.
and as
And
you
you're
say, to
more
pivot and come up with
well.
ideas.
You end up being more creative. But I'm going to hand back over to you that you can
That's okay.
continue with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's great. That's great. And I think on that, actually, to be honest, it's I actually refer to this as my COVID baby now, the drone services company. So you had a real child, I had a business child, so to speak. Anyway, I digress. But you can see from here, these are the real numbers. I haven't put the actual figures on them, but I don't really want to show my turnovers and profits and that sort of stuff. But these are real numbers of turnover in what happened over 10 years. And you can see in that relaunch period from 2020 to now to the forecast, the growth was much quicker. And that is from learning. That is from learning what Andy's saying about putting a business plan together, knowing how to do your marketing, having been through these things a little bit. But you can only do that by learning. And you rightly said, you only know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. Is I've heard it so many times, but it's so true. So yeah, the forecast there is a genuine forecast. It's not a dream. There's some big stuff happening for my business, which I can't talk about today, unfortunately. But follow me on LinkedIn, and later this year I'll be shouting and screaming about it with lots of excitement, hopefully. So there you go. Okay, pitfalls. I'm going up and down here. I'm going from highs of forecast to lows of pitfalls again. Here's some things that caught me out, and these are the bits I think where the hints and tips come. And certainly, where Anthony works with, he will go through a lot more detail. I think you mentioned good marketing there. Marketing is critical. I would say that A, because that's my background, but more importantly, B, because as someone who's run two businesses, if you're not in front of the customers in the right place at the right time, then I'll use a straightforward word: you're knackered, because it's a bit like building that Tesco's with those lovely cakes in that Anthony's been buying, sticking it in the middle of a field where no one actually ever walks past, and then praying that someone happens to go across a sludgy field and make all the effort to go and buy the cake. It ain't going to happen. You've got to direct them to your business, and you've got to make your business attractive to come to. So, yeah, whether that's online, offline, retail, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You've got to make it attractive and let them know what's in your stall to help you. So marketing, a massive one. My second one would be poor accounting advice. Really just find yourself through recommendation, I would say, through your business network, a really, really good accountant who really understands the real stuff. You can start with basic stuff, spreadsheet to start with. If you're small enough, then you can move across to, like Anthony was saying, QuickBooks. I actually use Xero, but either or are good tools that give you a good digital business. Anthony's back and still on mute.
That's a really good point. And I stress to people, pay professionals, because as much as we can use AI and there's these great tools that are out there, maybe that can support you with the day-to-day thing, I think when you're setting up your QuickBooks or your Xero, there's a tendency for people to cut corners in the wrong places.
Yeah.
So I've seen so many people, especially with setting up their accounts with QuickBooks, Xero, they're like, oh, I'll do it myself. Then they do it wrong, which then means when they go to do their accounts, everything needs to be cleaned up. And it ends up costing them more than if they just had a professional set it up. So make sure that you're paying your accountant, making sure that if you are in an area where there may be some legal jeopardy, that you're consulting the professionals. I think that's vital. And I'm glad that you brought that out.
Yeah, and it's so true, and It really is the truest area. I mean, I'm no tax expert. I'm no accountant. I understand fundamentals of numbers, but there's so many little things that you don't know that can save you money, a huge amount of money with a good accountant, but it can avoid you, as you rightly said, get into a sticky place where you have to pay an accountant to unpick everything.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you 3 or 4 times as much. So day one, find the right person. It doesn't need to cost you a fortune. You just need to find someone who's good.
Yeah.
And use your networks and referrals, because I'm on my fifth accountant because I didn't listen to that advice. So there's a huge pitfall. And now the one I've got, I love her. She's brilliant. She's amazing. So
Yeah,
I'm happy now. But
and there is a level of humility in that. So I always like to say my accountant has a doctor, my doctor has a plumber, my plumber has an electrician, my electrician has a dentist. So it's not even
yes,
a matter of being smart. It's just allowing people to do what they're trained in and they do every day. So they'll be quicker, more efficient, and they'll be able to share information with you that, just going on Chat GPT or going on Google, you wouldn't be able to glean. And like you said, it is going to end up costing you money.
yeah, sticky times if you go down by yourself. I think that's another thing I've said here, which is it's in my next points actually. So you're leading me beautifully in, which is that you don't try and think because you're a solo business owner or a solo side hustler that you can do it all by yourself, or even try to. Do ask dumb questions, and I hate using colloquial terms like that, but I call it the Columbo effect, like in the old 1970s guy. He always asks what seems to be the stupid question. He kind of knows the answer, but what he does is by asking what seems to be a stupid question, is he gets 10 times much more back than he asked for, and therefore he's much better informed. So don't be scared to go out and ask questions that you feel are uncomfortable. Just ask the question. You're not going to get shot. No one's going to remember in a 2 days time, let alone 2 minutes time. They'll just give you the advice. So utilize networks, forums, ask those questions, and be humble in it. It's I still do it to this day. I still put out questions to my networks and say, look, I'm stuck with this. I'm sure I should do it like this, but maybe you could help me, which is pretty much saying, beat me up if you like. I don't care, because I know that you guys will give me something back more than I asked for, and I'll learn something. And learning is iterative and it's constant. I think one other thing is really, really do step forward. So like this guy in this slide here, he can see snakes and problems ahead of him. But if you stand there and worry about it, you're not going to go anywhere. Don't overthink things. Don't over procrastinate. Step forward, small steps at a time, bite-sized steps, because you have to keep going down that journey. And genuinely, if you get absolutely smashed to the ground, and it is the song, I get knocked down, I get up again. By Chumbawamba. It's just a song. Roll that in your head on a bad day, and it just makes you smile. But it's actually so true. Just keep going and going and going. So I think, setting up in my country as a limited company is slower. It's a little bit more detail to work through at the beginning, a lot more planning, a bit more responsibility. But one thing that stayed constant is having those plans in place and having those anchor points in place, even through that really difficult time that I referred to. Because having those things in place is like anchoring a boat in a storm. And if you've got them there, you can weather storms better. So all those pieces you put in all count, and do them pragmatically, sensibly, but as I say, don't overthink it. And I suppose one more thing I was going to say here is, don't sit back too long. And I say procrastinate, which is a good one. But the other one I was going to say is, don't take on a client that feels wrong. There's a huge danger when you're at the beginning that you take on a client that in your gut, for whatever reason, you feel it's not the right client. Guess what? They will be the wrong client. And one major pitfall I did was I didn't listen to that in the first year of my first business, and it cost me more pain than you can imagine. It actually cost me a restraining order in the end, because the guy was completely and I didn't make a penny out of it. I worked stupid hours, and never again ever done that in the 9 years since. So if the client feels bad, walk away.
And that's one of the things that I talk to people about quite a lot is when you're building your business plan, one of the things that you're going to put in there is an ideal client, or what some people refer to as an avatar. So you can understand who your ideal client is by building out this avatar, which is essentially you're writing out a profile of this person that you're trying to reach. And that's going to allow you to be able to use the right colors, the right words, be in the right places. And as you said, not everyone that's going to pay you is your customer. You want to find people who value your product or your service, because I remember my grandmother always used to say, birds of a feather flock together. So bad clients and bad customers will refer other bad clients and bad customers. So I love that point that you're making there. And when you had that feeling, what prevented you from actually following your gut?
I think quite simply, it's naivety. I'd come from a cozy background, getting paid every month, and suddenly, the money was needed to be earned. And this guy smelt the fact that I was a bit desperate to earn cash and get the business really moving. And he's a bit of a snake. I'll put that lightly. And he really, really played on that, and he was very smooth and what have you. And because it sounded shiny and bright and exciting, because it was a good project, blah, blah, blah. The money was going to be there. It was all like, wow, I've just got to go for this. But I didn't listen to my instinct. And it's something that I do now. Wow, I do now. Yeah. When you get that wrenchy feeling in your stomach, or it's not feeling right, it's real. It's listen to it. And sometimes it's better to walk away from that.
It is there for a reason. And these are some of the things that having a business plan and having some data and KPIs can protect you from. Because in your business plan, what you should be doing is pricing your products and your services correctly. Yeah. You should also be putting money aside for marketing, put money aside for operating expenses, and understand what your actual revenue and income is. Because quite often, especially people that do side hustles, they create a false economy for themselves because they have a job that's bringing in money. Mm-hmm. So they feel like anything that comes in from the side hustle is money coming in. But when they back out the materials or their time or, just operating expenses, they might as well be working at McDonald's quite often.
Yeah.
But they feel like, oh, I got this invoice was paid for X amount. I'd like to ask you a few questions because there's some very interesting things that you said. And so first and foremost, if you had to describe what you do with the drones, what is it that you actually do?
Yeah, because I deliberately haven't sort of gone into much detail because I wanted to sort of give more general conversation here. But so what I do now is I started off doing really basic services, so cut my teeth and learn on. So I started off doing like residential roof inspections for people and pre-purchase inspections, because a lot of surveyors who do the kind of RIC stuff, which is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors stuff, don't always have the capability to see right up there in detail. So I started off doing home buyer surveys back at the beginning. That gave me confidence and showed my product was working okay, and people liked that extra thing I was doing. So there's a little extra twist I was putting in on top compared against the other guys. But that was only my starting point. My intention was to move on to more complex work. And over the 5 years, then I've sort of practiced, trained, developed, worked on more surveying-based solutions and things like what they call three-dimensionally modeling buildings, or they're also known as digital twins. And some of the landscapes I now create look like something out of computer games, but they're actually captured from the real world, bizarrely smashed up into just tiny pieces, and then put back together so that they can be put into things like architectural drawing areas and the like, and planning for new buildings to be built. I do all kinds of stuff like thermal work, the thermography, and looking for heat spots, whether that's industrial or otherwise. So I started off real small and then just kept on building up towards that dream, that vision I talked about at the beginning. And 5 years on, I'm kind of I wouldn't say I'm there because there's always more to learn, but I'm certainly now, very close to that point where I'm now delivering those services, which has only opened up new paths to say, well, there's even further I can go. So that's going to keep my mind busy for the next 5 years plus at least, and always keep growing and learning. And I've probably learned and grown more in the last 5 years since COVID than I probably did through all my corporate life,
Yeah.
in such a fast period. But it's been a lot of fun, and there's moments where you kind of think, okay, but push through, keep going. It's not exciting if you're standing still. If you've got that kind of energy and you've got creativity, then you'll find your way, and it's fun. And you always got to remember to have the fun, as you said. You've got to make sure you're paying yourself first of all, and if you ain't paying your time and your value, then really question that, because you can just, as you say, go and work at McDonald's and earn more if you're doing things that are overstretching you, but you can't deliver it with enough value coming back into your pocket or into the business, to pay the bills and then the bills at home as well. So definitely just keep growing.
So how did you use your marketing background and leverage that into your new business?
Without giving all the toys away to my competitors who might want to listen to this video, it was very much a case of, it was quite lean because of what happened to the other business. But what I really learned from practice more than I ever did from study was that placing yourself where your customers are. And I think that's the critical point. I really thought through, you referred to avatars or personas, I really thought that through, really thought about where those customers are going to be, where they might be searching, either online, offline, or whatever. And then really focusing the small acorns of investment in there first, then open those channels up a bit more as they start to work, and then testing new marketing channels to see how to attract different clients. So my channels for residential market are completely different to my channels for sort of like business to business and industrial. And my approaches there are much more on a one-to-one pointed basis. Whereas for the residential stuff, it is more mass market. I've got to reach a broader net because the average order value is lower. And therefore it's like fishing in two different ponds for me now. But that sounds incredibly complicated, but it's not. It's pick the right poison, or wrong words, I suppose. The right nice food to attract in the right people. Yes, it is like fishing. It's bait, and it's got to be quality bait when they get there. I don't want to get attracted to a restaurant and then find I'm paying, I don't know, $60 for a meal, but the service is terrible. That's the wrong approach. So it's about attracting people into that beautiful meal, that beautiful experience, and making sure when they land there that they then tell 10 other people about that. And certainly word of mouth has become greater as I've gone further on, and that is yielding. It's the hardest thing to achieve, but the most rewarding.
I found that when I talk to people about avatars and personas, it seems counterintuitive, and it's one of the hardest concepts for people to get. So when I do a course, and I would ask someone, all right, so who is your ideal customer? Is it a male or a female? The response I always get is both, right? And just getting them to understand that, as you said, you can start with one persona, you perfect that, you iterate that, and then you can build other personas. But just getting people to niche down, as you said, is usually quite difficult until they felt the pain, until they've spent money trying to do this mass market thing, and it doesn't resonate with anybody because they're trying to sell to everybody. So you talking about niching down is good for me because it helps me open up the other part of the conversation that I like to have with people is, how do you know who your ideal client is? What ways are you retaining data and testing data? And I recommend that every business has a CRM, so a customer relationship manager.
Without doubt.
So how would you explain that to someone what a CRM is and what do you use?
Okay, so in terms of like a CRM, on day one, are starting out. So imagine someone's coming in with quite a lean amount of cash. People get scared of the word CRM because it sounds like a big database thing. Just start with the basics. So literally a spreadsheet is a CRM.
Yes.
Write down your customers that are interested, the ones that then fall off the end of the pipeline and don't buy, then the ones that do buy, and then go back to them, maybe just think through who they were, and then start seeing patterns in those buyers. And then you can start to really hone down that persona, because you now know who is buying.
Yes.
But I think it's impossible to do that without a little bit of test and learn. But test and learning, as you said, by doing it very broad brush is going to tell you nothing. It's too complex and too expensive. So by niching down and thinking through logically, so again, starting this out, the second round for me, we're moving into the business to business side. Who is going to be needing what I have? What does that person look like inside the organization? Because it's people who buy, not a business that buys. Where do I find them? Where do they hang out? What do they do? All these things that kind of make it more rounded. Now, it does sound quite trite when we talk about it, but it does become incredibly true. And it's only with experience in the end you realize how true it is,
Yes.
and then you can work back the other way. But you have to, at least find a start point. And if you go too broad, try and hit every marketing channel to try and find every person. Chase the newest, shiniest marketing thing that's come out. Whether it's X or whichever one arrives tomorrow. You'll always get gurus from marketing, and I can definitely give them a bit of a slap here a little bit now, who will tell you why, on every channel you go to, why you should be using Facebook, you should be using they're just trying to sell you their Facebook channel and their service.
That's it.
What they're not trying to do is pull back and say, well, actually, who is it you're trying to reach, and where are they? And mostly we are talking online these days, mostly. And for me, I think the proof is coming back to what you said about still do have a website. I almost started this second business without having a website, and I thought, no, I'm going to resist it. I'm going to try and break the mold and be so different. But I still bought a URL.
Yes.
What I pointed people to at the beginning was a one-page virtual reality landing page with little click buttons on it that then took me out to my socials. Now, it cost me nothing to do. It was really straightforward. It was built from scratch, but cost nothing. But it was different. It was a bit kind of, it grabbed attention, but it soon didn't actually give enough information that people needed in a place they could go find it. And websites, still to a point, are a little bit of a background research, a proof that you exist.
Yes.
It doesn't need, I've still got a portfolio site for this, and I don't tend to turn it into a massive, e-commerce site or anything. It doesn't need it. Yeah, people just need a little bit of proof that you have a business, even though they check Companies House or the equivalents around the world.
Yeah.
And then the socials really are just about tickling lines, a bit like fishing again, where you have those lines and you just gently tickle, just to let people see what you're, a little bit of inside track of what you're doing. So my Instagram, for example, is far more kind of playful and has some kind of cheekiness to it, because they're the sort of people that are on Instagram.
Each platform has its own
persona.
Yeah.
So I iterate. LinkedIn a little bit more serious, but sometimes I tease it a little bit because I like to I like to have a bit of fun, persona is hard, but it's not hard. Who's going to look at your product? Who's going to be the most likely to buy it? And start working it up. That's it.
So we've talked about quite a few different concepts, and at the very beginning, I said that there's no one silver bullet, and I'm going to contradict myself to a degree.
Okay, go for it.
In 30 years of business, I've listened to the Tony Robbins. I've listened to all of the different people, and the one thing that I found that brings everything together: the psychology, the selling, the avatars, the social media, is sales funnels.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels?
Yeah, absolutely.
His books brought everything together, and I don't feel like the books taught me anything new, not because I know everything, but
No.
just because I've. But what I like is the pragmatic way that he's put things together, because it ties a lot into human psychology.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy for us to get caught up in our own head, even with follow up. And this is one of the things that most companies, this is where they leave a lot of the money on the table, because they never follow up, because, oh, I don't want to keep calling that person because, they're not. And with the whole sales funnel methodology, it breaks it down into steps, and it also gives you the why people do what they do. And it also, in my case, it gave me permission to be persistent. Because he talks a lot about the drip feed campaigns and the system. So I would advise anybody who wants to bring all of the different elements together and up their game to check out Russell Brunson. ClickFunnels is, if once you know about it, you realize that a lot of the really successful people that are doing these online webinars and various different things, they're using ClickFunnels in the background. And
even if they're not using that tool particularly, there is no doubt that there is a basic rule of marketing, which I'll quickly go, which is, AIDA. So it's attention, information, desire, and action. Yeah, which in itself is a funnel. That's the journey we all go through. Classic example, very quickly. If I want to go and buy a new car, first of all, what's triggered me to do that? Who knows? Could be a life event, could be anything. But then that could mean that I'm a working mum that basically now needs a car because I've got 2 kids instead of 3. That could be the trigger. That's a life event. So there's your persona target, working mums. But then when one starts going down that journey of looking for the product, you often start really wide. You might look at all the different brands that are out there. You might look at a Ford, you might look at a Nissan, you might go, all over the place. And then gradually you start talking to your mates about it, or the mums after school and they're having a coffee and, I'm thinking about buying a car. We got one of these. It's really good because, etc., etc. Then you narrow down. Now, this is the point where if you're in that point of their journey, then you can hit those sweet spots, because you now explain to them what has already been explained to them by their own mind, by their associates, why your product is the one. And you start to then feed them a little bit gently, not too salesy, but gently explain why this is such a cool product, because you can get 3 kids in and out without breaking your back, and so on and so forth. And I think that's easy to miss, but importantly, at that point, you suddenly start seeing that car everywhere.
Yeah,
you suddenly start seeing that Ford, whatever it is, or VW, whatever. You suddenly start seeing them everywhere. And if you've chosen a color, bizarrely, you start seeing white Fords of that type everywhere. Now, that's just our psyche drawing us through our own funnel. So if you present in that funnel at the right time and enough times, and the other quick rule of marketing, 7 touches before anyone even recognizes your product or even sees it. Psychologically, that is still true. You've got to keep that drip going nice and gently. It's like a little tap, tap, tap. I'm still here, but very quietly, until people start to get drawn to it. It's the same as fishing.
I was talking to someone about that yesterday. I just think there's a level of arrogance and ignorance that business owners have, because my position is this: when you turn on the television or when you're driving down the street, you'll probably see a McDonald's ad. You'll probably see a Coca-Cola ad. And these are 2 of the biggest brands on the planet, but they still advertise. They still keep their name out there. But we have individuals that are starting a business and they're like, no, I'll just put one post on Facebook and I will be rich and everybody will buy from me. And I just don't understand how you can arrive at that point. But sometimes it is the fear of maybe being successful, because people feel like it might actually work.
I don't know. I mean, in a British mentality, certainly there's a fear of being too intrusive. We all like to be ever so sorry. Every time we do something, we apologize. I mean, it's a very British thing. We love it. We apologize before we've done anything. So I think for certainly this country, I found that a lot of people fear what I actually like about the States, which is a little bit more, hey, look, we're a business, we have a product, it could work for you. And it's a little bit more kind of in your face in a good way. I don't think it's a bad thing, because people do need to buy products. People do need solutions. And I taught myself that over time, is just to be a little bit more upfront and say, I've got something great. Why shouldn't I tell you about it? Don't be scared of what you've got. You're not going to upset someone. They might just ignore it. But that's the worst you can do. You're not going to kind of make an enemy. They're just going to go,
You talk to, yeah.
not
And
for
that's
me.
what I'm about to do, actually. So there's a few products that I want to make sure and share with every business owner. So first and foremost, check out Russell Brunson, check out the sales funnels, understand you can download his books for free, and they're well worth, even if you were to purchase them, they're well worth the purchase price. Now, what you want to do is make sure that you bring people from being a follower, so someone who will watch this podcast with Mark and myself, to being a fan, so you'll reach out to Mark to becoming a customer, or by understanding what he does and his services, being able to introduce other people to him. Don't forget to network. Okay, so don't wait until you need clients or customers to start to reach out to people and engage with people. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Make sure you have some systems in place. We talked about the CRM, even if it's just an Excel spreadsheet, because when you do graduate to maybe a bigger CRM or a paid CRM, you'll be able to export those names and that information into the bigger system. Now, as a business owner, one of the things that can happen is you sign up for products and services that are affordable as a subscription. So $6.99 here, $9.99 there. Before you know it, it's hundreds, if not more, per month. But I found a platform called AppSumo. AppSumo, what I love about it, you can find different apps on there. And because these are newer apps and people are just launching them, you can purchase them and get a lifetime subscription. Most of the apps on there are about $49, dollars, not pounds. And the other good thing about AppSumo is that you have a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you get something and it's not what you wanted it to be, or if you just want to return it, you can get your money back, no questions asked. So every business owner should be checking AppSumo at least once a month. And if you're not using ChatGPT, please download my book, ChatGPT for Startups and Side Hustlers. It's a non-technical explanation and introduction to ChatGPT. I have some prompts in there that you can use right away. I'm not a geek in the sense that, I'm not super technical, but I understand how to use these things well enough to make my life easier and make my business more profitable. Make sure that you are using social media, as Mark was saying. And when you're using social media, a lot of people think that I'm like really active on social media. I'm going to share my tip with you right now. I use Publer. So what Publer allows me to do is schedule posts across multiple platforms. So Mark and I are talking today. I will chop this up using apps that I found on AppSumo, and I'll post it on different platforms using Publer. So I can schedule my whole month by just using Publer. So it makes it look like I'm super active. If you have a YouTube channel and you want to market it, I use Sprizzy. So Sprizzy is another platform that is vital if you're looking to really just expand your YouTube reach. If you're looking to get monetized, so you need that 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 viewer hours, please consider please consider Sprizzy. Now, I want to thank Mark for being here, because I think the information that he shared has been really useful. And I also want to give you another opportunity, Mark, to just share your contact details and tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, and thank you for your inviting me on here, and anyone who's listened or going to listen, because my invite's there. So do reach out to me. Best contact for me is on LinkedIn. So that's literally Mark Sean Elliott. So that's Marksean. It's an Irish spelling. Elliott, Elliott, or just look up my company, S4G Drone Services, either .com for the website or in any other platform. We're mainly using Instagram and Facebook for the more sort of lighter stuff and some background stories, and then LinkedIn. I tend to go a bit heavy industry because I'm talking to associates out there, and there's a lot of us that do. The one important thing I didn't get across here, which is do collaborate with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why me and Anthony here are talking. Businesses collaborate. That digging that well early. I love that expression. That's so cool. And that networking is about also finding people that can help you out to dig you out the well later on.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
not about selling in that network. It's building a framework of people who are trusted, collaborative around you. I to this day, I now work probably with more partnerships delivering different projects because I can't be an expert in my field of everything. I'm an expert in a narrow part of my field, and I also sometimes need a specialist surgeon to help me with other bits. So we do collaborate. We do co-work on projects and elements together. Find those like-minded people for sure.
Yeah, because your network truly is your net worth. So I really appreciate your time today. And, if you're starting a business, make sure that you surround yourself with people that can support you. I'm Anthony Lindsay, and I help people build a data-driven business that's scalable, sustainable, repeatable, and franchisable. That way, you're not running your business based on your emotion, but you're running your business based on data. Thanks, Mark. And make sure you check out the information in the description, because you'll be able to get more information on how to contact Mark and how to find out more about the products and services that we offer. And you'll find out about future shows. And thanks for listening.
Hey, this is Anthony, and I help startups and side hustlers make their first 100,000 by building a data-driven business that's scalable, sustainable, repeatable, and franchisable. A bulletproof system that's made up of writing a book, a YouTube channel, and getting paid to speak at events. So if you'd like to know more about what we do, make sure you click the link below and join one of our free monthly business